en juillet 2023, quelle réponse la communauté de 193 États membres qui la composent souhaite-t-elle leur apporter? Vous avez été 139 États à me demander d'organiser cette session extraordinaire avant juillet, afin que soit décidée de cette réponse. Une réponse qui concerne avant tout le futur de l'Unesco, cette organisation qui est la vôtre, qui est le fruit de vos engagements et de vos décisions à travers le temps. Une organisation qui fut aussi celle des États-Unis, qui ont été parmi les pays fondateurs de cette institution très singulière des Nations Unies. Une organisation qui est fière de son histoire, mais qui s'est aussi résolument tournée vers l'avenir au cours de ces dernières années, et dont la marche, loin de s'arrêter, s'est accélérée. Une organisation qui a su trouver la voie du consensus, même là où il apparaissait hors de portée, pour mieux se concentrer sur son mandat de première importance pour les populations, qui a su être à la pointe des enjeux du XXIe siècle, quand certains nous croyaient cantonnés à une vision ancrée dans le passé, qui se mobilise pour l'éducation, pour l'Afrique, pour le défi existentiel de l'Anthropocène, pour un développement éthique de l'intelligence artificielle, pour réparer les sociétés meurtries par les guerres et par les crises, pour construire les défenses de la paix dans le monde qui vient. C'est une UNESCO renforcée, à la gestion modernisée, stratégiquement repositionnée, financièrement plus solide et politiquement plus sereine, qui va apporter une réponse à la proposition des États-Unis à travers cette session extraordinaire. Une UNESCO dynamique, dotée d'une feuille de route stratégique claire, en capacité d'accueillir toutes les nations, petites et grandes. Alors bien sûr, et c'est le premier point qui nous vient à l'esprit pour répondre à la question posée à cette conférence générale extraordinaire, nous savons que la vocation du multilatéralisme est de viser l'universalité. L'effondrement du vivant, le réchauffement climatique, l'enjeu mondial de l'éducation, la pandémie, la révolution de l'intelligence artificielle, l'aggravation des conflits internationaux se sont chargés de nous rappeler, s'il en était besoin, que face aux enjeux collectifs, il y a une responsabilité de chacun dont nul ne doit s'absoudre. De nous rappeler aussi qu'il n'y a de réponse que collective. Notre apport à la construction de la paix, qu'il soit normatif ou opérationnel, est rendu plus légitime au fur et à mesure que nous nous rapprochons de l'universalité. C'est une des raisons pour lesquelles nous avons été, par exemple, si fiers d'accueillir cette année un 195e État partie à la Convention pour la protection du patrimoine mondial, les Tuvalu. Comment ne le serions-nous pas aussi de retrouver un 194e membre pour notre organisation? Aussi, au-delà de cette vocation principielle, nous savons que nous avons besoin de tous et toutes devant les défis qui sont les nôtres. Que notre apport à la paix est rendu non seulement plus légitime, mais aussi plus fort par la contribution de chacun. Vous avez donc ici l'occasion de renforcer encore la dynamique qui est désormais la nôtre. Nos réponses seront d'autant plus fortes qu'elles seront nées d'un multilatéralisme inclusif avec la participation de tous. Et comment ne serions-nous pas renforcés parce que les États-Unis, leur gouvernement comme leur société civile, peuvent apporter. Et je n'ai pas de doute, et nous y veillerons collectivement, qu'au bout du chemin, ce retour apportera une valeur ajoutée dans l'esprit de l'action multilatérale qui se fait au bénéfice de tous. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America has put forward a concrete plan and committed to a financial contribution, a plan that will naturally have benefits for the organization. This plan includes, of course, the payment of its assessed contributions, starting from its date of return. It is in the organization's best interest for this return to take place as soon as possible, within the set time frame, to allow the country to pay nearly 6 months of assessed contribution this year. This plan also includes voluntary contributions beginning this year. And finally, it includes a commitment to reimbursing over time the country's accumulated debt until these arrears are fully resolved. In responding to this proposal, you will be able to build on the robust principles established during the decision made regularly at the General Conference, session after session, to restore the rights of states that have requested it. Indeed, provisions, including constitutional ones, to restore the rights of member states with arrears that exceed 2 years of contributions have been widely applied at each ordinary session of the General Conference. You can therefore rely on this jurisprudence, whose vocation is to apply to all. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, I will now leave the floor to you, our member states, in the same spirit of unity and consensus that has driven us in recent years and allowed us to focus on our core mission, as recalled by the President in his opening speech. Our core mission, which is fundamental, because in the words of Thomas Paine, a citizen of 3 countries and an actor of 2 revolutions, we have it in our power to begin the world over again. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madame la Directrice Générale. Now, dear colleagues, allow me to recall you some important elements regarding the work of today and tomorrow. First, on the matter of credentials, as you know, the Legal Committee of the General Conference acts as a credential committee and is responsible for examining the credentials of the delegations. In accordance to Rule 34 of the Rules of Procedure, the Legal Committee does not need to be established and shall meet whenever necessary before the opening of the next ordinary session of the Conference, upon convocation by the President of the General Conference. The chairperson, Mr. Pierre-Michel Eisman, France, and members of the Legal Committee remain those of the 41st Ordinary Session elected in the 40th session by resolution, as you recall, 40C, Resolution 22. I will ask now, as the conference is in session, I have requested the Legal Committee to meet on 29 June today at 3:30 with a view of verifying the conformity of credentials received by the Secretariat in accordance with Rule 35, Paragraph 3 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference. It will be later report to the plenary on the credential of the delegations. Now, let me see. On the second issue that I want to raise is the question of voting rights of member states that are in arrears. As you know, Article 4C, Paragraph 8b of the Constitution provides for clauses related for voting rights. Accordingly, a member shall have no vote in the General Conference if the total amount of contributions due for it exceeds the total amount of contribution payable by it for the current year and the immediately preceding calendar year. In accordance with the procedure, the Director General has sent out communication to those member states in danger of losing their voting rights, respecting the deadline of at least 6 months before the opening of the General Conference. Therefore, member states who have been notified by the Director General have until the opening of the next 42nd General Conference to send in their communication and or to settle their duties. As you can note, this 5th extraordinary session of the General Conference is taking place in the middle of this normal process time frame. Therefore, I would like to propose to all of you, as President of the General Conference and in line with the precedents from prior extraordinary session, that every member state shall exercise its right to vote, as payments are still being processed at the deadline related to the 42nd session of the General Conference have not yet expired. In that sense, I will request that we show on the screen the resolution that I'm proposing to that regard, and that I will request your attention. Is it already there? No. I can see. Well, voilà. Oh. So it's a simple text. Maybe, Cecile, you can read it in English for us.
Yes, indeed, Mr. President. The General Conference, recalling the constitutional obligation of member states to pay their contributions fully and on time, also recalling Article 4C, paragraph...
Sorry, I have a yes, Russian Federation is requesting the floor. It is a point of order. I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы приветствуем всех присутствующих, ваше превосходительство, дорогие коллеги. Мы хотели бы уточнить один процедурный вопрос. Правильно ли мы делаем, что обсуждаем сейчас вопрос о принятии резолюции до выборов председателя данной внеочередной сессии Генконференции? Не мог бы это прокомментировать юридический советник? Спасибо.
The question is that as President of the 41st General Conference, initiated the process of this General Extraordinary Conference. It is my duty to prepare the General Conference. Therefore, I have to present to the next President everything, I hope, online. One is asking the committee of legal committee to start working, and the second is waiving the granting the right of vote to each member state. This is what has been done in the previous extraordinary conferences. We are not going yet into the substance of the conference that will happen after the election of the president. Is this clear? It is. Thank you very much. Can we proceed? Sorry, Palestine. You requested the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. وأسعد الله أوقاتكم جميعا وكل عام وأنتم بخير. سيد الرئيس، نحن نتفهم تماما تفسيركم وهو واضح فيما يخص هذا الموضوع. I'll switch to English. Mr. Chair, you are proceeding normally. You want to waive a provision before applying its suspension. This is normal. This is absolutely normal. But in the same vein, I have just a question. I would like to have a legal clarification for the convening of this session. Following the Rule 17 of the Rules of Procedure, in theory, it should have been convened 30 days at least before holding it. Well, we understand that it is special circumstances, but we are wondering how could it be justified legally talking. Let me be clear, here we are not talking about any substance. Again, for the issue, we can reiterate our position regarding the return of the US. Palestine welcomes US back to the organization. Our concerns are not relating to the return. We are happy with their return. Our concerns are relating to legal issue and procedural issue. Can we have some clarification, Mr. Chair? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Can I have a clarification? We are talking about the convening, or we are talking about the agenda? What is the...
Yes, we are talking about convening the Article 17 that stipulates that it needs 30 days.
I will ask... correct me if I'm wrong. Please, go ahead, Mr. Santiago, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all members of the General Conference. Mr. President, with regard to the convening of the question of the conference of the extraordinary session, properly speaking, the applicable rule is Rule 6. Rule 5 and Rule 6, Paragraph 1 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference. According to Rule 6, Paragraph 1, the Director General shall notify the Member States if possible, not less than 30 days in advance of the date and place of an extraordinary session. The convening of the session has therefore taken place in accordance and not in suspension of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference. Rule 17, on the other hand, concerns the agenda, the provisional agenda, and this matter, Mr. President, I believe is one that you will address at a later stage in the proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is this a satisfactory answer for you?
If you are going to explain it in the proceeding later, it would be satisfying. We'll discuss it later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much to you. Can we proceed? Who is it? Which is? Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan. You have the floor, sir.
Благодарю, господин председатель. Вот, по моему мнению, мы не с того вопроса начинаем. Нужно просто понять, мы чрезвычайно собрались здесь, чрезвычайно, очень быстро. Мы благодарим секретариат, что смог организовать за короткое время. И почему-то мы первый вопрос ставим сейчас о долгах. Никто же не знал, что будет 29-го чрезвычайная сессия. Если мы можем поднимать этот вопрос, я думаю, на очередной сессии мы можем поднимать этот вопрос. И вот этот поставленный вопрос просто сейчас внесет какие-то раздоры, непонимание, когда мы хотим принять очень важный документ, резолюцию. Я просто предлагаю снять этот вопрос с повестки дня вообще и перейти к сути вопроса. Поставьте, пожалуйста, мое предложение на голосование. Спасибо.
I thank you very much, Kyrgyzstan. This is a procedural issue. We are not yet in the... Yes, may I answer first? Thank you, Russia. I took your point of order. This is a procedural issue. We are not getting into the substance yet. We are just preparing the conference. Those are procedural issues. And we have to sort out the right of vote. This is a first step anyway, because if we are called to vote, we have to know who will vote. My proposal is that every state may vote regardless of their economic situation or their financial situation with regard to the organization. Russia, you have the floor.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы хотели бы все-таки вернуться к первому вопросу, поставленному нами, по поводу возможности обсуждения того проекта резолюции, который находится на экране. Как мы понимаем, предлагаемый документ является документом внеочередной сессии. Поэтому мы можем его обсуждать только после того, как мы изберем председателя и, видимо, после того, как мы примем повестку дня. Также хочу сказать два слова по процедурному вопросу, поднятому уважаемым представителем Палестины. За 30 дней генеральным директором должна быть разослана повестка дня сессии. То есть за 30 дней, это наше понимание, мы просим подтвердить или опровергнуть это юрисконсульта. За 30 дней мы должны были получить повестку дня. Этого не было сделано. Что касается выступления уважаемого представителя Кыргызстана, то, опять же, мы не можем сейчас ставить на голосование никакие вопросы, не приняв повестку дня и не определившись с процедурой и порядком нашей работы. Спасибо. Будьте добры, если можно, мы бы хотели заслушать мнение юрисконсульта по этим вопросам. Спасибо.
Yes, we will sit Poland. You request the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And at the outset, let me thank the Director General for convening this session in line with Rule 6.1 and as requested by a huge majority of the Member States. And this is an important day to UNESCO. This is an important day to multilateralism and the whole UN family that surely we attach the utmost importance to. It's always a pleasure to listen to the colleagues from the Russian delegation that duly study the rules of procedure. But the rules of procedure is also my favorite lecture, and I don't see here any contradiction with both the existing rules of procedure and, which is equally important, with the practices of this body. Now, a simple issue is under consideration. We are not at the stage of discussion of a draft decision. We are at this stage, as clarified by you, Mr. President, in line with the rules of procedure and practices, and also by the legal advisor, just to allow our fellow member states to participate in this discussion. First things first. And I don't think that the Russian delegation wants to deny a number of states participation in this discussion. I fully support Mr. President, and I think that this sentiment is shared by a large number of states that requested this session to proceed with this as you have suggested. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. You have a point of order, India?
Excellency, you are continuing, and in the process of your continuation, a point of order was raised by a member state. That issue has to be resolved with the help of the legal advisor. It does not open the floor for member states to give statements, Excellency. That particular point of order has to be resolved by you and the legal advisor so that we can move forward. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, India. Yes, I will request the legal advisor to answer to Russian Federation. But yes, please, Mr. Legal Advisor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the way I understand the way in which I understand you're conducting the meeting, Mr. Chair, is that prior to starting the consideration of the several items, and as part of item 1, you're dealing with a number of organizational issues relating to the meeting. In so doing, Mr. President, you started by dealing with the matter of credentials, calling the legal committee to meet in order to discuss and verify the credentials of delegations. Thereafter, in order to ensure the full participation of the members of the conference during the present extraordinary session, you have dealt with the issue of voting rights. Indeed, according to the Constitution, as you rightly pointed out, member states do not have a right to vote if they are in arrears of more than 2 years with respect to the organization, and this is the situation with respect to a number of states. Your proposal, Mr. Chair, was to handle this matter at this stage so as to allow the full participation of those member states for the purposes of the meeting, including later on the adoption of the agenda and other substantive items that are before the General Conference at the present session. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Russian Federation, this answer your question?
Не в полной мере, господин председатель. Мы не понимаем, на каких основаниях мы можем принять предложенный проект решения. Это решение должно быть решением 5-й внеочередной сессии Генконференции. Но мы даже не избрали председателя, мы не утвердили порядок работы и повестку дня. Спасибо.
I thank you very much. I think I'm here sitting as organizing the works for the 5th conference. We are going to elect the president. We are going to elect vice president. But for that, member states must know if they can or not vote. So this is what we are trying to. These are all. We are not taking care here of substance. We are just moving towards preparing the ground for the conference. But I will ask the legal advisor correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I do confirm that you are perfectly right. I should add 2 points. The first one is, Mr. President, that you have already opened the 5th session, which is already underway. President, in conformity with Rule 28 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference, which states, and I quote, "At the opening of each session of the General Conference, the President elected at the previous session," and I'm omitting a number of words there, "shall preside until the General Conference has elected the President of that session." So at present, the meeting is open, the session has started, the President is chairing the meeting as temporary President, and as you may see from the provisional agenda, the election of the President will take place as the 3rd item in the agenda later on. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Palestine, yes, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the legal advisor. Very clear explanation. We accept this explanation, but there is still a difficulty because this decision before us that you propose is related to the voting issues in order to give the right to vote to member states. But suppose that at this stage somebody asks the vote on this decision, who will be allowed to vote? We have still a real problem. So shall we start with the credentials? I don't know. This is a legal issue. We are in front of a paradox, because this is to allow member states to vote, but if we have to vote on this resolution, how it will happen, how it will go on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I understand. That is why I presented it as my proposal, and I will request you to endorse this proposal, because I think it's the way that everybody here in this room can fully participate in this meeting. But if you understand that it's different, we can discuss that again. But I think what we need is that everybody can be engaged in this process. That's why I'm asking you to consider this resolution, so as everybody can, at this stage, participate fully of this conference. Thank you very much. Can I understand, or can I take it that we can proceed and we can adopt this resolution, Russian Federation?
Извините, господин председатель, мы не случайно цепляемся за правила процедуры. Возможно, что мы не произнесли самого главного, что Российская Федерация, как таковая, не выступает против возвращения США в ЮНЕСКО. Мы готовы были бы это приветствовать, но при том понимании, что этот процесс будет организован в соответствии с уставом ЮНЕСКО и правилами процедуры Генконференции. Придаем большое значение этому вопросу, потому что мы создаем некоторый прецедент. Этот прецедент может играть роль, в том числе и в рамках общей системы ООН. Нам нужно быть уверенными в том, что мы делаем все безошибочно, без процедурных огрехов, накладок. Поэтому хотелось бы понимать, у нас есть процедура и для очередных сессий, и для внеочередных сессий, процедура определения голосования. Был задан уважаемым представителем Палестины, был задан, на наш взгляд, закономерный вопрос, что если данный проект резолюции будет поставлен на голосование. Мы не знаем, сколько нас, мы не знаем, кто из нас имеет право голосовать, кто не имеет. Очевидно, что это делается в разрез, идет в разрез с правилами процедуры. Хотелось бы понять, как выйти из этого замкнутого круга. Спасибо.
This is not exactly, as you mentioned, this is exactly the way this organization has worked in the previous 4 extraordinary sessions. We are following what is the procedure that has been followed in the previous extraordinary session, which is because of the process of paying the various countries had a certain time to do that. 6 months has been, letters has been sent. This period goes up to the 42nd General Conference. Therefore, it has been interrupted now, all of a sudden, because of this conference. That's why my predecessors in other extraordinary sessions, and now myself, I'm proposing that we allowed all member states here to vote, because we cannot at this stage. They could have paid, but they had the time to do it. The time to pay is the 42nd, before the 42nd session. I hope that this may help us to move forward in this issue, which is a procedural issue. We have not yet discussed the substance of this conference. Thank you. St. Lucia, you ask the floor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we're delighted to see you with us today again. Mr. President, you basically said what I wanted to say. What you're doing is following the practice for extraordinary sessions. I would like to tell my colleagues from Russia and Palestine that the deadlines for payment are not over yet. So the deadline for payment and presenting communications for member states for an ordinary session are still going on. So the practice is for an extraordinary session, the right to vote is given to everyone. And that is why I believe that what you have presented now is the right procedure and is in conformity with the practice for extraordinary sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, St. Lucia. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Удивительно, но нам представляется, мы говорим с вами об одном и том же. Тогда мы хотели бы упростить постановку вопроса нами и просто попросить юрисконсульта сослаться на те правила процедуры, согласно которым мы можем работать с проектом резолюции, представленным на экране. Спасибо.
You request that I ask again the legal advisor? Sorry, I missed that point.
Нет, господин председатель, не столько мнение юрисконсульта, сколько указания на конкретные пункты правил процедуры Генконференции, согласно которым мы можем работать с проектом резолюции, который видим на экране. Мы не понимаем, в соответствии с какими нормами мы сейчас работаем.
As I told you, that I repeat, and I shall repeat maybe the words that St. Lucia just presented. This is an extraordinary meeting. We're following what we have done, and this is a practice for extraordinary meetings. This conference. But I will ask the legal advisor to enlighten us in this point. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I can confirm that this resolution is pursuant to Article 4, paragraph letter C, paragraph 8, B and C of the Constitution of UNESCO, not the rules of procedure, but of the Constitution of UNESCO. These two paragraphs respond to the question that was asked before, which is who has the right to vote, and the answer is that a member state shall have no vote, and I'm quoting the Constitution here, a member state shall have no vote in the General Conference if the total amount of contributions due from it exceeds the total amount of contributions payable by it for the current year and the immediately preceding calendar year. And this is except in the case in which, under paragraph C of the same article, of the same paragraph, the General Conference permits this member state to vote. Until this decision is not made, the states who are in arrears do not have the right to vote in front of the General Conference. Now, I should add, Mr. Chair, that in proceeding this way, you are following the precedent that was held in prior extraordinary sessions of the General Conference, and I draw your attention in particular to the third extraordinary session of the General Conference, in which the voting rights of delegations was dealt just after the opening of the session, as you are currently doing, Mr. Chair, and before the adoption of the agenda. So nothing I have seen up to now indicates any breach nor suspension either of the Constitution nor the rules of procedure, and Mr. President, I haven't heard any delegation stating otherwise. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. India, you request the floor.
Thank you, Excellency. I thank the legal advisor for having given this excellent suggestion. The question, Excellency, with your permission, that was asked by a member state as to if there is a hypothetical vote, who would be voting? Now, the legal advisor has very clearly mentioned that until this resolution has been adopted, the countries that are in arrear do not have a right to vote. And that is why the last para reads, decides that in application to certain article of the Constitution, to authorize these member states to participate in the voting at its fifth extraordinary sessions, which means that if there is a hypothetical vote, that is in response to a question asked by a member state, if there is a hypothetical vote, then who will be voting? The member states who are not in arrears will be voting and deciding on this particular resolution, enabling the member states who are in arrears to vote when the matter of substance is decided. Of course, this view I submit for the kind attention of the legal advisor, and I thank him for his wonderful views and guidance to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, India. Mr. Legal Advisor, do you want to answer here? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, my intervention will be brief, just to confirm that everything that was just said by the distinguished Ambassador of India is correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Russia, you request the floor. Point of order.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Тогда у нас такой вопрос к юрисконсульту. Означает ли принятие данной резолюции, что мы откладываем действия соответствующих правил процедуры, согласно которым установление права голоса осуществляется при посредстве рабочей группы, созданной в рамках комиссии АПХ Генконференции. Спасибо.
It is my view that we do not need to apply this rule right now, but please confirm me if I'm wrong.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Although the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation has not referred to the provision in particular, I should clarify that I believe he's referring to Rule 80 of the Rules of Procedure. Mr. President, I draw the attention of the conference to that provision, which on several occasions refers to a mechanism that the deadlines for which are all dependent on the start of an ordinary session. Insofar as this procedure applies indeed in the framework of an ordinary session, it doesn't apply to, or it is not adapted to the framework of an extraordinary session. And indeed, Mr. President, once again, I should point out that, as you rightly pointed out, upon introducing this matter, you're thereby following the precedent of prior extraordinary sessions in which a similar procedure as the one that you're proposing right now has been followed. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. With this explanation, may we, Kyrgyzstan? You requested Kyrgyzstan?
Да, могу я сказать слово, уважаемый председатель?
Of course, yes.
Спасибо. Я еще раз говорю о парадоксальности, то, что мы сейчас вынесли этот документ. Почему? Потому что в остальных внеочередных сессиях, я думаю, была соблюдена та процедура, где устанавливалось 30-дневный срок. И если, раз мы вынесли такой вопрос, а что, если государство спросят, вы не дали нам времени заплатить, потому что не было соблюдено этот 30-дневный срок. И что ответят на это юристы? То есть это у нас является прецедентом. И поэтому постановка этого вопроса о долгах, это неуместно, учитывая эти обстоятельства на данном чрезвычайной сессии. Спасибо.
Yes, but I understand what you said, but the question is that the debts are not yet payable, if you want. The countries have still time to pay and organize their payments until the 42nd session of the General Conference. This conference came up as a request by 139 countries, and we are doing it in the middle of this process. So there are countries that may pay, or they explain why, but they are not yet in a position to do so. What this resolution means, and it's following what we have done in the past in extraordinary sessions, therefore is not creating any precedent unless President for extraordinary sessions is to allow everybody to participate in this process that cannot participate because they are still in the time of paying. So this is the question. So therefore, that's why I'm asking you that we move forward so we can vote, we can participate, we can continue our debate, and we go to the substance that gathers us in this room. And with this, I'm asking you if I can move forward and consider this resolution adopted. I see no objection. Oh, sorry, China. Sorry, China. You have the floor, my friend.
谢谢主席先生。经过我们法律顾问的好几轮的回答，中方理解，在当选选举第5次特别会议的之前，由41届大会主席来主持的目的是为了真正的开始第5次的特别会议。为了准备这个第5次特别会议，就需要做一个决定，就是目前在屏幕上的这个决定。这个决定呢，按照会议议事规则第76条第2段的表述。我首先想请教的是，这是不是一个决定？目前在屏幕上打的，这是不是要做出这个决定？如果是一个决定的话，第76条议事规则第76条第2段决定，一般情况下，任何决议草案至迟应于会议开始前24小时以大会工作语言写成草本，送达各代表团，负责不得交付讨论或者表决。我就想请教一下我们的法律顾问，这个是不是一个决定？如果是一个决定的话，为什么没能够在24小时之前以 教科文组织大会的各个工作语言提供给各个代表团。谢谢。
Thank you very much, China, for the, we are following here what we have done in the previous extraordinary session. This is the procedure that we have followed, and I think that we are here having a document which is allowing all our members that are here to vote without any difficulties and without looking at their specific situation, financial situation, because timing for answering and timing for paying their arrears is still ongoing. So that is why we are adopting this procedure. But I will ask the legal advisor if he wants to add something here.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I believe that you have already, in your latest intervention, but also in your prior ones, already addressed in detail the substantive aspects of this resolution. I would focus, on the other hand, on the procedural matter that was raised by His Excellency, the Distinguished Ambassador of China. As he rightly pointed out, Rule 76, paragraph 2, provides that no draft resolution shall be discussed or put to the vote unless copies of it have been circulated in the working languages to all delegations at least 24 hours before the opening of the meeting. However, that provision starts with the words "as a general rule" and needs to be read in conjunction with paragraph 3, which states as follows: notwithstanding the provisions of the foregoing paragraphs, the President may permit the discussion and consideration without previous circulation of copies of motions and amendments concerning draft resolutions that have already been circulated. End of quote. Mr. President, you have exercised that authority that is provided to you under the rules of procedure in proposing this resolution for adoption by the General Conference. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I ask China if with this explanation we can move ahead. China?
谢谢。第三段是这么说的：是虽有前面各段之规定，对已分发的决议草案之动议 ，I repeat。对已分发的决议草案之动议或者修正案，主席可不必事先分发抄本。是对已分发的决议草案的动议。我想请教法律顾问，这是不是对已经分发的决议草案的动议？谢谢。
Mr. Legal Advisor,
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I completely understand if the distinguished delegate from China is consulting the English version of the text, that there might be an ambiguity. But I have to tell you that ambiguity, which might exist, is absolutely solved when one looks at the French version of the text, which referring to motions, uses the term proposition. And when this paragraph 3 refers to motions, what it is referring to is indeed draft resolutions, proposals that are in front of the conference. The phrase concerning draft resolutions that have already been circulated, in my view, Mr. President, refers to amendments, but not to the motions themselves. Once again, Mr. President, I believe that you are acting in accordance with Rule 76, paragraphs 2 and 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I ask Chinese delegation if we can proceed, and I will. Cuba, you requested the floor. You have the floor.
Sí, gracias, señor presidente. Nunca nos podríamos oponer a devolverle a estados que por fuerza mayor no han podido pagar su contribución el derecho al voto, pero no estamos debatiendo sobre el fondo en este momento. También nos sorprende ver que es un documento que ni siquiera tiene una referencia de documento de la Conferencia General. Me pregunto si en las anteriores conferencias generales tampoco fue distribuido en tiempo y tampoco fue dotado el proyecto de resolución de una referencia sobre a qué punto pertenece este proyecto de decisión. Hay veces las prisas nos hacen andar mucho más despacio. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Cuba. I will ask legal advisor to answer you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. En respuesta a la pregunta de la distinguida delegada de Cuba, le confirmo que en la tercera sesión un proyecto de resolución fue propuesto sin referencia y sin circulación del documento previo. Esto, sin embargo, no es una cuestión tanto jurídica como de métodos de trabajo. Lo que puedo asegurarles, claro está, que la resolución, si es adoptada, constará en los documentos oficiales de la sesión con una referencia que permitirá que se la identifique en sesiones futuras. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Pregunto a Cuba si podemos avanzar en la consideración de este texto. If it is so, yes, Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы хотели бы поддержать замечание, вопрос уважаемого посла Китая. Мы уверены, что речь идет о пункте 2 правила 76. И со своей стороны, поскольку юрисконсульт ссылается на прецеденты по внеочередным сессиям, хотели бы поинтересоваться, как обстояло дело в подобных случаях на предыдущих внеочередных сессиях. Господин председатель, если позволите, еще замечание, связанное с тем вопросом, который мы рассматриваем. Вопрос о сроках рассылки для нас очень серьезен. И мы считаем то, что документы, повестка дня были разосланы не вовремя и в нарушение правил процедуры, имеет принципиальное значение. Правило 17 правил процедуры говорит о том, что повестка дня должна быть разослана за 30 дней до открытия сессии. Это правило однозначно и не обусловлено оговоркой по мере возможности, которая есть в пункте 6 о приглашениях. И нам бы хотелось, чтобы юрисконсульт помог нам как-то отфиксировать это нарушение и объяснить, как мы с этим нарушением правил процедуры должны поступить. Спасибо.
I understand very well, but this is something that we are going to discuss when next item of the agenda comes to our discussion. Therefore, for all of this, I think that if we can settle this question, which is allowing everybody in this room to vote, that seems to us essential for the possibility of everybody to participate, fully participate in this debate and in this important decision, historical decision, by the way. Therefore, I'm asking you if I can move ahead.
South Africa.
South Africa.
Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome back from the United States and welcome back here to the headquarters of UNESCO, a home for all. Just a few questions, and I appreciate the questions colleagues raised, as well as explanations offered both by yourself and the legal advisor. I think, as colleagues also said, I think the spirit of the discussion is that we all welcome the return of the US, because we believe that that it will contribute towards strengthening the organization. I think what we are dealing with here is to ensure that even beyond dealing with the issue of the US, we strengthen and adhere to the rules of procedure of the very organization that of our organization, actually. So the question I want to know, because I want to determine the materiality of the numbers in question. Do we know how many? And we should know, because when a decision was taken to convene this extraordinary session, surely certain information should have been verified. Do we know how many member states could be affected if we were to decide not to take this decision?
The question is that, Ambassador, is that the process of payment that has been started and has from now, since the moment the Director General has sent a communication to each state that was in arrears of 2 years, has 6 months. And this period of 6 months is not yet concluded. And this conference came in the middle of this process. This period will conclude at the eve of the 42nd General Conference. That's why is that I'm asking you and I'm presenting you a proposal to allow every delegation in this room, every colleague of us, every delegation, every state, every member state, to engage in the discussion of the substantive issue that we have at hand and can participate, fully participate. We cannot, at this stage, say who is owing or not, because the time for paying is not yet at the end. That's why we are using this procedure that has been reiterated and has been made in previous extraordinary sessions, because they came out of the normal calendar. That's why I'm asking you, Ambassador, the distinguished delegate of South Africa, if, with this explanation, can I proceed and try to adopt this resolution that will allow every of us here in this room to fully participate in this process. Thank you.
I understand. May I take the floor?
Yes, of course. Point of order, Russia. I don't know. Point of order? South Africa, you have the floor. And India, after
Mr. President, you can be rest assured of South Africa's cooperation, and we really want this meeting to proceed. Asking question is for clarity, and at this stage, we yet to say, yes, we support you. So it's in that spirit. I have a question for the Secretariat, because I don't think you'll be in a position to answer this one, with due respect. Do we have an idea, because when you deal with credentials and payment and so forth, you are dealing with an issue of members in good standing, and that's a direct question. Do you have an idea of how many members may be affected by this situation? That's a simple question I'm asking to the Secretariat. If they don't know, it's an answer, but can I know how many members potentially could be affected by this?
India, do you request the floor, and then I have Palestine?
Excellency, thank you for giving me the floor. At this point in time, what you are trying to do by the text of the draft which is in front of us, you are not trying to give the numbers of the member states who are in arrears. That is the job of the Credentials Committee, which will give us. Right now, if you pay attention to the text of this draft, it says, decides that in application so-and-so to authorize these member states. It does not say to to authorize these 30 member states or these 9 member states. No. It is a blanket waiver that is being that what you are asking this House to provide in good faith, so that all member states have the right to vote, and you are preparing the foundation for the president who will be elected to take on the agenda which has been distributed to member states in accordance with rules of procedure, or the rule 74 or 76 that was quoted. What you are doing right now, you are not really opening the agenda. All these points which are being raised will come up. What you are doing right now is asking for a blanket approval, Excellency, and I think that is the way forward, and that should be able to answer the questions. Do you know any exact number of member states? That is not your job at this point in time, Excellency. That is the job of the Credentials Committee, which will report to the new President, Excellency, and not to you. So, Excellency, having said that, I feel that as the President, you have to give your ruling and move forward, Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I move forward, Palestine, you have the floor. Haiti, I have seen you also.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I proceed? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. En réalité, on est d'accord sur le contenu, et votre propos derrière cette décision est tout à fait louable et défendable. Personne n'est contre, on le soutient. Le problème, c'est un problème, encore une fois, problème procédural, légal et technique. Cependant, et moi je suis tout à fait d'accord avec la question qui a été posée pour comprendre le pour et le contre et le derrière. Comme je dis, cette décision est indispensable pour qu'on puisse procéder normalement dans la session. Cependant, comme vous l'avez dit, c'est basé sur une pratique et non pas sur une règle. Donc ça, c'est ce qui crée déjà une confusion. Et je pense peut-être pour le futur, il faudrait garder ça en tête. Peut-être faudrait-il amender le règlement intérieur pour pallier à ce problème. Cependant, maintenant, si on vient au contenu, et là, c'est une question pour le legal advisor. Now, the operative paragraph of this resolution is problematic for me. Why? Because we are granting the right to vote based on the paragraph that is mentioned, which is 4C8C. And I read, it says, the General Conference may nevertheless permit such a member state to vote if it is satisfied that failure to pay its due to conditions beyond the control of the member state. Now here, this means that we are implicitly considering that all member states concerned with these areas, they failed for reasons beyond their control, which is something difficult to admit. Again, I'm saying I support your idea behind this decision, and it is important to have this resolution, but maybe the operative paragraph should be drafted legally different from this, and maybe the legal advisor can help us, because here I can't admit like this that their failure is due to reasons beyond their control. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Before I pass the floor to Haiti, I will just tell you that this conference is an exceptional conference. It's out of the control of everybody, of us. Even me, I have to take a plane and came here. I was summoned. This is out of control. If there is something out of control, is this extraordinary General Assembly. Russia, I have seen you. I ask IT, and then I will come to you. Haiti. You have the floor, madam.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui, notre mission est de nous renforcer, tous ensemble, pour l'accueil d'un nouveau membre. Aujourd'hui, notre travail est de faire un pas de plus vers l'universalité qui est au cœur de la raison d'être de cette maison. Si nous sommes réunis tous ensemble aujourd'hui pour discuter d'un dossier concernant un nouveau membre, c'est que nous accordons l'importance et la valeur à tous les membres de cette conférence générale. Nous venons d'entendre question après question et réponse après réponse du conseiller juridique nous disant que vous opérez jusqu'à présent dans le respect de la Constitution et dans le respect de la procédure de cette conférence générale. il me paraît évident pour Haïti que toutes les voix soient incluses dans cette décision d'envergure pour l'avenir de cette organisation, que tous les États membres de cette conférence générale soient invités à y prendre part et qu'il nous revient, nous qui ne faisons pas partie de cette exception des pays en arriéré, de nous renforcer ensemble et de les accueillir à cette première étape qui nous réunit, de les accueillir à prendre ensemble la décision qui nous incombe de discuter du dossier qui concerne un pays. Donc, je voulais joindre ma voix à celle du distingué représentant de l'Inde et de vous dire que nous accueillons favorablement votre proposition et que nous invitons la conférence générale à continuer et à accueillir tous ses membres pour cette décision importante qui nous réunit extraordinairement aujourd'hui et que nous devons prendre ensemble pour l'avenir de cette organisation. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Haïti, merci. Russian Federation, you request the floor.
Спасибо, господин председатель. У нас есть, как нам представляется, конструктивное предложение. Может быть, оно поможет найти выход из сложившегося тупика. И мы рассчитываем на юридического советника, возможно, на его помощь. Здесь не раз звучали слова про прецеденты, которые мы можем использовать в своей работе. Насколько нам известно, при проведении предыдущих внеочередных сессий процедура соблюдалась строго. Правда, тогда еще существовал комитет по полномочиям, который ныне, функции которого переданы юридическому комитету. Но, насколько нам известно, все комитеты и комиссии прошлые внеочередные сессии создавались. Может быть, нам сейчас пойти по одному из этих прецедентов, то есть действительно собрать рабочую группу, рассмотреть вопрос, собрать информацию. Сейчас мы даже не знаем, сколько нас здесь в зале, сколько должников, сколько злостных должников. Мы, например, вот с этим проектом резолюции имеем определенные проблемы. На основании чего мы должны определить указанные в 3-м параграфе обстоятельства вне контроля государства-члена? Кто нам может подтвердить, что во всех случаях это верное определение? Спасибо.
I thank you very much, Russian Federation. I can tell you that, for sure, this is out of control of member states. They have received a letter from the Director General that they have 6 months to pay, and in the middle of this process, a general conference, extraordinary general conference, has been called upon. Slovakia, do you request the floor?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. But you actually said exactly what I wanted to say. And I thank you very much also really for your skillful leadership in this process and also very clear explanation that we received on repeatedly also by the legal advisor. I mean, for Slovakia, the decision as it stands, it's completely understandable. We understand, as you explained on several occasions, that the fact that some countries couldn't pay their arrears is by the conditions beyond their control because, as you said repeatedly, the deadline has not passed yet. So this extraordinary general conference is happening within that period. So they were not able to, come to that end. That's why we fully support this decision and we suggest that we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see St. Lucia, you request the floor. You have the floor, madam.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I know that you are trying to do everything within the procedure and the precedents and the practice of previous extraordinary session. But could I ask a question? Because the way I understand the situation today, no one is in arrears. No one. Because they still have time to pay. So we cannot consider that they are in arrears until the deadline has passed. So my question is, do we need this DR at all? Thank you.
Thank you, St. Lucia. Before we answer you, if you allowed me, I will pass the floor to Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, this is a very interesting debate in many ways, but I think, in the past practice, we have done this to get rid of any uncertainty. And I all believe your good intentions that in order to be absolutely clear, you submit this DR. But as a result of that, we seem to be stuck. But St. Lucia has just mentioned, and I agree with her, all the countries in areas have the possibility of paying them by the deadline. Okay, and in that case, theoretically, nobody has lost the voting rights, or nobody is in danger of losing voting rights. In this case, of course, I'm always more comfortable with clarity, and I thought something like this should be non-contentious. But it seems that we have spent more than 1.5 hours only for this issue. This is ridiculous. So I concur with Santa Lucia. Everybody has time to pay until the actual deadline, and therefore nobody has lost the right to vote. And on that understanding, let's move on. Let's move on to more constructive issues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Japan. Thank you very much. I will request the legal advisor to enlighten us here, and I have seen Palestine, I have seen Switzerland also. Thank you.
Mr. President, it is difficult to speak after an applause on a technical matter, but I am bound to recall the financial regulations of the organization, and more particular Article 5.5, which states as follows, and I quote, "Contributions and advances shall be considered as due and payable in full within 30 days of the receipt of the communications of the Director General referred to in Regulations 5.3 and 5.4 above." Those are the communications that are sent at the beginning of each calendar year. I'm jumping a little bit and to read, as of 1st January of the following year, the unpaid balance of such contributions and advances shall be considered to be 1 year in arrears. As a consequence, Mr. President, there are a number of member states that are in arrears. My understanding from the information I have is that there are a number of them that the Secretariat, if needed, may provide the names of, and therefore you have a need to adopt this resolution in order to give those states, member states, the right to vote. And this is on the basis not on practice, Mr. President, but on the basis of the Constitution of UNESCO. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Palestine, Swiss, and then the Russian Federation. Palestine.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I wanted to mention the same thing, maybe with other wording. So thank you so much, Mr. Legal Advisor. I agree fully with his explanation, which means, indeed, there are some member states at this stage with areas that prevents them having the right to vote. And it is necessary, I agree also with the legal advisor, that it is necessary to have this decision adopted in order to go forward. I mentioned previously, Palestine supports this, the idea or the substance of this resolution, but we have a technical problem because of its content that refers to the rules of procedure and that justifies something that is unacceptable. Sir, when we go to the formal adoption, maybe as a way out for a consensus, I would have an amendment on the operative paragraph. And now just a small remark. For the moment, we are discussing procedural and legal issue. We are not discussing the return of a member state or how to settle the arrears of the member state. So please, don't mix up things. For the moment, it is a technical, purely technical and procedural discussion. So do not mix things. When we finish this discussion, then we will talk about the substance. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Palestine. I see Switzerland and then the Russian Federation. I see Haiti also. Okay, later.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme je prends la parole pour la première fois, j'aimerais moi aussi saluer votre retour parmi nous et tous les efforts que vous faites pour nous guider dans cette 5e conférence générale extraordinaire de grande importance pour nous tous ici. Nous tournons en rond avec des questions extrêmement techniques auxquelles nous avons reçu des réponses extrêmement précises et professionnelles du conseiller juridique et de vous-même, et je vous remercie pour cela. Je pense que nous avons considéré cette question sous toutes ses facettes possibles. Je pense que votre proposition de décision est bonne et acceptable et nous souhaitons maintenant, la Suisse, pouvoir approuver votre proposition et aller de l'avant. Et j'espère que nous allons tous maintenant parler dans ce sens. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Switzerland. I would like to proceed in that way, but before we are going to listen to the Russian Federation. You have the floor, sir.
Спасибо, господин председатель, за ваше терпение и попытку решить такой сложный вопрос. С нашей точки зрения вопрос принципиальный – соблюдение правил процедуры. Мы не знаем, на какие прецеденты ссылается конкретно юридический советник, но вот у нас есть информация по предыдущей 4-й внеочередной сессии ЮНЕСКО. Отмечу, которая была в 1982 году, довольно далеко. На той сессии все было сделано в соответствии с правилами процедуры. Были разосланы обращения, получено обращение от государств-членов. Впоследствии был избран президиум, председатель, утверждена повестка дня. Все, как требует устав и правила процедуры. Поэтому мы не знаем, как в нашей ситуации поступить, но отдельно замечу, что именно с учетом правил процедуры и даже вот этих прецедентов Российская Федерация предложила включить в повестку дня как раз вопрос о выборах вице-председателей и избрание учреждения комитетов и комиссий. Мы также пытались как-то вот разрулить, разрешить. Мы предвидели вот эти вот нарушения и эту путаницу. Предвидели то, что вот сейчас происходит у нас на сессии. Хотелось бы этого очень избежать. Спасибо.
I thank you very much, Russia, for your dedication here, but we can only move to that point if we move here, which is a procedural issue. Haiti, you request the floor.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président, et je vous remercie aussi de m'accorder la parole une seconde fois. Je rejoins bien entendu la position de la Suisse qui vous appelle à nous aider à avancer dans notre ordre du jour. Monsieur le Président, il n'y a aucune confusion de notre part sur les questions de procédure et les questions de l'agenda. Ce qui nous réunit aujourd'hui est une question concernant un pays qui essaie de rejoindre cette organisation, un pays qui accuse un montant énorme d'arriérés. Pourtant, plus d'une centaine d'États membres présents dans cette salle sont prêts à coparrainer une décision, une résolution qui leur permettrait la réintégration dans cette organisation. Haïti en fait fièrement partie. Il serait donc très incohérent et grave que ces mêmes États membres ne soient pas prêts à accueillir d'autres États membres déjà parmi nous dans cette conférence générale, qui eux accusent des arriérés malgré eux, pour des raisons bien graves, bien tragiques, bien difficiles, des contextes au-delà de leur volonté, et que nous soyons prêts à les exclure de notre décision, alors que nous serons prêts plus tard ou demain à inclure un pays avec des arriérés dans toutes les décisions que nous aurons à prendre dans cette maison. Donc pour une question de cohérence, de justice, d'équité, il y a non-débat aujourd'hui. Si nous sommes prêts à nous réunir et à convenir de cette conférence générale pour discuter de l'adhésion d'un membre avec ses arriérés, nous devons être prêts aujourd'hui à accepter que certains membres de cette conférence générale n'aient pas pu, pour des raisons indépendantes de leur volonté, payer les arriérés à temps dans des circonstances extraordinaires aujourd'hui. J'invite donc tous les États membres de cette conférence générale à faire un dépassement, qu'il soit personnel ou national, pour permettre à tous les pays de cette conférence générale de prendre part de ces décisions importantes pour l'avenir de notre pays. Je vous remercie, de notre organisation. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, Haïti, merci. Je vois ici Iraq. Iraq, you request the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. يعني أنا ألاحظ أننا لمدة تقارب الساعتين ونحن ندخل في نقاش هل البيضة من الدجاجة أم الدجاجة من البيضة، وأؤكد لكم أن هذا النقاش سوف يجعلنا ننام في هذه القاعة إلى الصباح. أنا أتفهم جيدا أنه حرصكم على تكوين قاعدة أو أرضية للمضي في مناقشة الموضوع الرئيسي في هذا المؤتمر. طالما أن المؤتمر هو مؤتمر استثنائي والقرارات هي قرارات استثنائية والمستشار القانوني أدلى بدلوه في هذا المجال، أنا أقترح أن يكون هنالك تعديل في النص في أن يكون عرض أو طلب للتصويت بمشاركة جميع الأعضاء ممن استوفوا شرط الأوراق الاعتماد، وليس بالدخول في جدال أنه استيفاء تقديم الالتزامات المالية أم لا، لأنه فعلا مثل ما تفضل سفير اليابان أن لا زالت المدة لم تمضي بعد والمؤتمر جاء في وقت استثنائي. شكرا جزيلا.
Palestine, you request the floor again?
Malheureusement, oui. Excusez-moi, Monsieur le Président, et merci pour votre patience. Mais on voit bien que, pas seulement la confusion continue, mais a priori, même les explications du Legal Advisor n'ont pas été bien comprises. Le Legal Advisor nous a expliqué que tout de même, il y a des pays avec des arriérés qui n'ont pas le droit de vote à ce stade. Mais ce n'est pas ça notre problème. Je dis bien que le contenu, l'idée défendue par cette résolution est soutenu par tout le monde. Notre problème, c'est vraiment que l'on commence et que l'on part sur des bases solides. Si on commence avec une résolution qui nous pose des problèmes juridiques ou procéduraux, toute notre session sera bancale. Donc ma proposition, Monsieur le Président, encore une fois, pour aller de l'avant, j'aurai un amendement sur le dernier paragraphe. Mais au moment de l'adoption, je le présenterai. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Palestine. This is the moment, because I understand that some of the members here don't want to move here. I will put on vote this decision, and the 30 or something countries that are there, they're not going to vote.
Mr. President, maybe
yes.
Before going to vote, because it will be a very bad beginning and opening for our session if we go to vote. We are seeking consensus. This is the House of Consensus, and I understand everybody was seeking consensus, and you know very well that Palestine was one of the member states who helped the consensus on very difficult issues, and Madam DG has mentioned it.
Yeah.
So. Here.
And I thank you very much. I have a point of order here. Thank you very much. I know your effort in this sense.
Well, I'll present my amendment after the point of order in that case.
Russia? Point of order?
Господин председатель, мы просто хотели отреагировать на предложение голосовать, или мы что-то не совсем правильно поняли?
Sorry, I didn't have the translation.
Сейчас все нормально? Да, мы просто хотели отреагировать по голосованию, но мы опять себя зацикливаем, мы движемся по кругу. Мы не можем сейчас голосовать, поскольку мы не знаем, кто имеет из нас право голосования. Потом, если мы правильно поняли, уважаемый посол ЮАР задал вопрос о том, какова картина вообще по цифрам, сколько нас, сколько должников, кто собрался, есть ли кворум в конце концов. Спасибо.
I will not nominate them. We have 29 countries that are in arrears. And as far as the vote is by showing hands, I can take them out of the final decision. Therefore, I'm preparing myself to vote. If you are in an agreement, we will go into that direction. What is a point of order, Palestine?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I proposed an amendment in order to avoid a possible vote. So maybe this is the moment to submit this amendment. It is a very simple amendment that will keep the substance of this resolution. So I will read it.
I'm sorry, it's a point of order, or this is...
because I requested it. Yes, it was actually, you wanted to proceed to something, and I have requested to submit an amendment. You told me, okay, you can do it. And then you went to the vote immediately. So let's understand. Can we amend, or shall we go immediately to the vote? So I think that with the amendment we can find a way out.
You want to answer? No. We are moving to the vote. Is that correct? So, point of order, Russia.
Господин председатель, в таком случае могли бы мы заслушать доклад юридического комитета, созданного на предыдущей сессии Генеральной конференции, который бы мог нам разъяснить по поводу полномочий присутствующих в зале. Спасибо.
The legal committee is starting working. Everybody has provisional credential at this stage. So we are waiting. They are working on this moment. The question is that this is a resolution that I'm proposing to be sure that everybody in this room, every member state in this room, can participate in this discussion. And so that is why I want them and I want everybody, all of us, to participate. This is a discussion that is going around, so I propose to vote. And as far as the vote is showing hands, I can take out those that I'm not going to count those that are in arrears until this resolution is adopted, if it is adopted. Uruguay, you request the floor.
Señor presidente, esta es la primera vez que Uruguay toma la palabra, así que aprovecho a saludar a todos y todas en la sala y a desearle el mejor de los trabajos. Sin embargo, antes de entrar en materia, me voy a permitir señalar un tema operativo. No nos están viendo en el fondo de la sala, así que eso es un tema importante porque Uruguay lleva más de media hora tratando de que lo vean. Yo sé, por supuesto, que es difícil desde la mesa, pero agradezco su comprensión y que se tomen medidas para que todos seamos considerados en tiempo y forma. Señor presidente, nosotros vamos a acompañar lo que usted disponga desde la mesa. Sin embargo, nos parece que en este tema en concreto, iniciar con una votación es complejo realmente. Nosotros apoyamos el proyecto que está en pantalla y entendemos que ha sido suficientemente explicado por el asesor jurídico la pertinencia jurídica de la toma de esta decisión. Lamentamos que estemos en este debate que ha sido por demás extenso. En el caso de Uruguay, repito, nos gustaría no entrar directamente en una votación en este tema en concreto, no es que rehuimos a las votaciones, pero en este, donde estamos pensando de una forma inclusiva, donde todos los estados puedan realmente ser parte de una decisión y que no existan diferencias, dado la excepcionalidad de los tiempos que estamos viviendo, la excepcionalidad de la convocatoria y que obviamente la toma de decisiones a la interna de nuestros países para los pagos es a veces complejo, sujeto además a situaciones internas de alta complejidad, como ya ha sido señalado.
Uruguay. Point of order, India, Uruguay.
Excellency, a point of order here. We are seeing that the time that is being used is for giving lengthy statements. Now, if you are encouraging and opening the floor for member states to give lengthy statements, then I suggest you keep a timer on and the timing be set for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 1 minute at your discretion under your chair, Excellency. But the point of order is that the lengthy statements be kindly avoided, Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uruguay, continue.
Gracias, señor presidente, sobre todo porque algunos estados es la primera vez que tomamos la palabra en este contexto. Señor presidente, apoyamos su decisión final, sin embargo, hacemos votos para que podamos evitar la votación y contemplemos un texto que tenga un espíritu inclusivo y que nos permita avanzar. Gracias, señor presidente.
Gracias, Uruguay. Gracias, Uruguay. Russian Federation, you request the floor.
Спасибо, господин президент. Мы хотели бы отметить, насколько мы понимаем, сейчас мы действуем вне связи с какими бы то ни было прецедентами. Сейчас мы создаем новый прецедент в истории внеочередных сессий ЮНЕСКО. Если речь идет о подготовке к голосованию, на чем мы не настаиваем, и мы это не предлагали, тогда мы попросим прервать заседание до того момента, когда юридический комитет будет готов нам представить информацию по полномочиям участвующих в сессии. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Russia. Legal advisor, you want to?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A point of clarification, Mr. President, on this point. The legal committee is expected to verify the credentials of delegations, and its sole role is the verification of credentials of delegations. The legal committee does not have a role to play with respect to the right to vote of states in arrears, which is taken into account by this resolution. As per the rules of procedure of the General Conference, in particular Rule 25, all delegations may sit and take part to a vote if they are entitled to do so, in other words, if they're not in arrears, pending the report of the legal committee. Mr. President, I should take the opportunity to mention that I am in touch with the legal committee, and I have been informed that so the legal committee is still to start its work because of absence of its members, except, I should point out, the President, who is waiting for them in that room. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I think I will make the attempt to try to move ahead with the adoption of this text, and I request again to all of you. Yes, Palestine, is a question of
point of order, Mr.
Point of
Chair.
order?
Yes. The Russian Federation has requested the suspension of the meeting. It is a procedural motion, and we support this. And following a procedural motion, you should adopt it immediately or put it to vote. Palestine supports this request. Second thing, we understand the explanation of the legal advisor. The legal committee will explain the credentials. But those delegations who does not have credentials, then they are not entitled to vote. So the suspension is necessary till we have the report of the legal committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, but I remind you that all delegations here have provisional credentials. So everybody, from that point on, they can vote, except if we do not go through this procedure. If we do not go through this procedure, and if we cannot find a consensus, we are going to vote without all our colleagues that are in arrears and that will not be able to vote in this particular question. I have Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Situation is very clear. You proposed to vote, and then only after that there was another proposal for vote. So your proposal to vote came before that. Well, this is really undesirable. I regret that. But to move forward, going back to your original proposal to go for a vote for this session without the members who have some areas at this moment in time. After all, this is a good thing because this resolution is trying to give the voting rights to those in arrears. This is a constructive thing. And if the rules is that people, the countries with areas cannot vote at this moment in time, be it as it is. Your proposal for vote came first, before the Russian proposals. So I think we should immediately vote. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we start the voting process. I remind you that this is we start the writing process. I'm sorry.
Господин председатель, но предложение о приостановке, о перерыве в заседании имеет приоритет, насколько мы понимаем. I will ask you, legal advisor, to enlighten us. Yes?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, first of all, I should recall the facts. As you may remember, Mr. President, you had proposed to go for a vote on the draft resolution that is on the screen. After that, a number of delegations took the floor, some on motion, on procedure, on points of order, others to make statements. In the course of this, the Russian delegation had requested the suspension of the meeting, but for the purposes of waiting for the response of the Credentials Committee, and a clarification was requested from the legal advisor, who explained that I explained that the Credentials Committee had nothing to do with the purpose of this resolution. I believe, Mr. President, that it is on that basis that you thought that that suspension, motion for suspension, was not holding. And on that basis, Mr. President, I understand that you proposed to move for a vote. Mr. President, if the motion for the suspension of the meeting is maintained, in that case, the applicable rule is Rule 72, and it mentions that a member state may move to the suspension or the adjournment of the meeting. Such motion shall not be debated, but shall be immediately put to the vote. If a vote is taken on that motion, then the majority is a simple majority. If the motion is not upheld, then you can move on, Mr. President, and go for the adoption or for the consideration of the decision as you proposed. Thank you very much.
Okay, the Russian Federation, do you maintain your position?
Для нас осталось непонятно несколько вещей. Что такое provisional credentials? Во-первых. Во-вторых, мы, может быть, был неправильный перевод, или я что-то недопонял, но мы не предлагали рассматривать проект резолюции. Третий момент. Уважаемый юридический советник сказал, что доклад юридического комитета не имеет отношения к данной резолюции, но мы как раз видим прямую связь. Для того, чтобы голосовать эту резолюцию или рассматривать ее, мы должны иметь представление о полномочиях присутствующих в зале, имеющих право голосовать. Спасибо.
They have Belarus and Poland. Belarus, you have the floor. Yes, Kyrgyzstan, I see you.
Спасибо большое, уважаемый господин председатель. Уверен, что вы пытаетесь найти взаимовыгодные, удобные, компромиссные для всех решения. И, к сожалению, сейчас мы слышим только какое-то виртуальное количество, 28 стран, без их названия. Каким-то странам мы хотим предоставить возможность голосовать. Никто не против этого, но хотя бы должно быть какое-то заключение. Поэтому мы полностью поддерживаем предложение России и Палестины о приостановке этого заседания до именно заключения правового комитета, чтобы мы знали, сколько стран, какие обстоятельства у этих стран именно не выплаты сейчас членских взносов. Спасибо большое.
Poland and then Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's 5 p.m. 2 hours spent on these interesting discussions, on clarifications by you, Mr. President, and by the Secretariat have been provided. Mr. President, first, you made a ruling to go for a vote. And unless this ruling is to be challenged as per Rule 71, it stays, which means that we should go immediately for a vote as ruled by you, Mr. President, unless it is challenged, which means that we will have a vote on your ruling. Later on, the motion by the Russian Federation was put forward. Suspension of a debate, of a meeting. It has nothing to do with the action of this decision. We need to move forward. My delegation does support your ruling, and I haven't heard anybody in this meeting challenging your ruling. So, Mr. President, I would kindly request, we are always in your hands, but would kindly request you to move forward with the action of this draft decision. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I have Kyrgyzstan and then Germany, and then we are going to close this debate.
Спасибо, уважаемый председатель. Уважаемый председатель, вообще в начале спора я дал вам хорошее предложение, если вы как помните. Это было предложение не рассматривать этот пункт и пойти дальше. Но вы решили пойти по другим путем, и к чему мы приходим сейчас, вы видите. Мне кажется, до сегодня мы не разберемся с этим вопросом. Я это назвал парадоксальным голосованием. Почему? Потому что мы сейчас, если будем голосовать за, чтобы некоторые страны голосовали и не голосовали за то, что они имеют долги, а по какому поводу мы собрались вообще? Давайте вспомним. Мы собрались по тому поводу, что Соединенные Штаты Америки просят вернуться и выплатить долги частично. Вот если ваше сейчас голосование пройдет, допустим, большинство решит, что должники не имеют права голосовать, и должники страны выйдут, это будет парадоксальной сессией в истории, что, вывев их из зала, мы голосуем за то, чтобы какая-нибудь другая страна была должна и платила там годами, да? Ну что за решение такое? Поэтому изначально я вам предлагал, и мое предложение было первым, уважаемый председатель. Первое предложение было у меня. Самое первое предложение на этой сессии, что давайте не будем мы рассматривать это, и мы перейдем к генеральной конференции без рассмотрения этого вопроса. Будут должники или не будут голосовать? Вот в чем дело. Вот если голосование, я вам скажу, что проголосуют, чтобы должники вышли из зала, это будет самая парадоксальная сессия в истории ЮНЕСКО. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Germany. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Let's not forget that we here gathered today on a very happy occasion, the return of the United States to this organization. I have an idea, maybe it's a very stupid idea, and the two Santiagos will kill me immediately. But if I see it properly, we have here a problem of the hen and the egg. So we don't know where to start and how to tackle this problem. I would have the idea that the 29 member states which are concerned, and we want to make a decision on their behalf, that they are able to vote, that they go for a minute out of the room while we adopt the decision which we have on the screen, and then they come back, and then the situation is clear for everybody.
Thank you very much, Germany. But this will happen because the vote is by showing hands, so we know who is. We are going to exclude those that are not in arrears. Let's go. Huh?
We can have a decision and consensus. We don't have to vote in this case.
I would like to for consensus, but I'm not perceived that we can get to consensus right now. Palestine is
yes,
no. Wait. No. Sweden. You have. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me. I've been at this for a little while, but good afternoon, all colleagues, and thank you for all your efforts, Mr. President. We have come together here for a very important reason. This is an extraordinary general conference, and we are supposed to make extraordinary decisions and come together in unity. We've been circling around procedural issues for more than 2 hours now. So I really want to just say very briefly, can we please come together and move forward? We are fully supportive of your proposal, Mr. President, and I would urge all colleagues to rally around your proposal, which is a very good pragmatic way of moving forward. We cannot suspend, we cannot move around in circles anymore. We need to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Palestine, yes, you have the floor.
Very sorry, Mr. Chair, but I agree that it would be very odd and very strange to have a vote in order to authorize, to grant the right to vote for other member states. This is a contradiction. And you heard everybody, even those who have concerns like Palestine regarding the technical issues, the legal issues. We support your idea, we support this draft. So we don't need any vote. Everybody mentioned it in its intervention. Our concern is purely technical. So maybe just without any changement to the essence, if we take off the reference in the third paragraph to the Article 4C8C, then it becomes absolutely clear, because here, with the reference, this is a real issue. So if it reads, decides to authorize these member states to participate in the voting, then it would be okay. So no, for me, my proposal is just to delete Article 4C8C, because this article talks about reasons beyond control, and at this stage we don't know if it is really for reasons beyond their control, and we want to offer the right to vote to everybody. So with this, maybe we can avoid the vote and grant the right to vote to everybody and to go forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you very much. I think that can we go for try again, once again, if we can adopt this by consensus. Otherwise, we are going to vote by showing hands, and we are going to exclude those that cannot vote. Can we move or not? South Africa?
Yeah, no, thanks, Mr. President. And I really appreciate the Secretariat for responding to my question. We now know that there are 29 member states that are affected. That's all I wanted. But I also want to join many others who have called for a consensus decision. I think it's going to set a very dangerous precedent, a toxic way of starting an important meeting if we are going to vote on such a matter. So I plead that we find a way to move forward with a consensus. I think that's the only appeal I wanted to make. I'm not for a vote. South Africa believes that we can find a way so that this decision is taken by consensus.
Thank you very much. Can I take it that we are going to accept it by consensus, as South Africa proposed it? It's so decided. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, point of order, Russia.
Господин председатель, ну наша табличка стояла все это время поднятой. Мы хотели бы в таком случае, если этот проект резолюции принят консенсусом, диссоциироваться от этого консенсуса. И хотели бы, чтобы в журнале заседаний было зафиксировано наше мнение о том, что мы сейчас в спешке, при неправильной подготовке к этой внеочередной сессии создаем очень опасные прецеденты, нарушая правила процедуры. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Russia. I assure you that the whole position of the Russian Federation will be recorded in our archives of this conference, and I thank you very much. Then, dear colleagues, we move forward to item 2 of this provisional agenda. And the relevant document, as you may know, is 5XC/1 Prof. Rev. We will examine now the item of the adoption of the agenda, and which has been distributed by circular letter CL 4441, June 16, 23, and I will now give the floor to Her Excellency, Mrs. Tamara Rostovac-Simiashvili, Chairman of the Executive Board, Chairperson of the Executive Board, to present the provisional agenda. Please, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Director General, colleagues. Having in mind the time, I will try to be short. And to remind, as it was stated by you, Mr. President, the Director General, that in their letter on 13th of June, 139 member states requested Director General to convene this extraordinary session, and further requested that it takes place before July 2023. And further to this letter, there was a letter addressed to me by the Director General, noting that in accordance with the Rules 17 and 18 of the Rules of Procedure General Conference, the provisional agenda is prepared by the Executive Board and includes only items proposed by the Member States and associate members who can request in the convening of the session. And given the short time frame before the convening of the session, I consulted the Executive Board members through Rule 60 of the Rules of Procedure of the Executive Board on the provisional agenda, whose principal agenda item was the one proposed by the Member States, who convened the extraordinary General Conference, and which it says financial matters related to the return of the United States of America to the organization as a Member State, as per the letter from the United States of America presented to the Member States by the Director General of Unesco on 12 June 2023. As per the Rules of Procedure of the Executive Board governing the consultations through Rule 60, more than 2/3 of the members of the Executive Board agreed to the provisional agenda comprised the item proposed within. And this provisional agenda comprised the items proposed in is contained in document, as you said, 5EX/1 Prov Rev. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Dear colleagues, before we move to the consideration of this provisional agenda prepared by the Executive Board, as well as one proposal for the addition of a supplementary item, I would like to recall, as it has been recalled here several times, that Rule 17, paragraph 2, sets a time limit for at least 30 days for communicating the provisional agenda to the Member States and associated, and as explicitly mentioned in the letter co-signed by 139 Member States, it is up to the General Conference to decide on the suspension of this rule in order to allow it to proceed at the present extraordinary session. This suspension requires a 2/3 majority of the members present and voting. Given that 139 member states already represent a 2/3 majority, I would like to propose that we agree on the suspension of Rule 17, paragraph 2. I see first Russian Federation, then Palestine. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, господин председатель. У нас два коротких вопроса к юридическому советнику. Первое. являются ли действия при подготовке генеральной к этой сессии Генконференции именно нарушением 17-го пункта правил процедуры? И второй вопрос. Если мы принимаем это решение, то оно будет действовать для только этой внеочередной сессии или оно будет распространяться на все последующие? И хотелось бы поинтересоваться мнением юридического советника, является ли нарушением принятие постфактум решения о приостановке правила процедуры, потому что оно фактически, по нашему мнению, было нарушено, но теперь мы это нарушение как бы прикрываем своим авторитетом. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Russia. I will, if you allow, I will ask, pass the floor to Palestine that requested, and then I will ask the legal advisor to answer all these questions. Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to complicate our debate, and I agree with you. We understand that there is a two-thirds majority and even more, and we, as Palestine, we will support, we have no problem. But again, here we raise the matter of respect of rules and implementation of these rules. We understand that usually we suspend a rule in order to proceed after that. We don't proceed and then we suspend, and this maybe the legal advisor will tell us. I don't recall any precedent where we had the action and after the action we suspended the related rule. Now, this is first thing. Second question, there was a precedent in such cases to suspend a rule without having a meeting before the meeting at the executive board during the pandemic. If I remember well, it was maybe article, which rule, maybe 62, or I don't know which article, that needed to be suspended in order to convene the executive board during the pandemic. And there was electronic consultations. And following these consultations, the rule was suspended and then they proceeded. So my question first, legally, usually, Mr. Legal Advisor, shouldn't we first suspend the rule and then proceed? This is first question. Second question, in our case, why didn't we proceed like in the precedent case in the executive board where there were consultation, electronic consultation? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Palestine. May I ask the legal advisor to answer the two questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I believe there were more than two, but I will answer all of them. Mr. President, first of all, I believe that you have already yourself given an answer to the first question asked by the Russian Federation about Rule 17 and its application in the present instance. I also take note of the position that later on in his intervention, the the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation has taken himself in that regard. But once again, I believe that you have already answered that question in introducing this point, Mr. President. With regard to the decision to suspend, whether it would be applicable to this session only or also for future sessions, the answer is pretty obvious to me that it would only be for the present session and not for future sessions. The General Conference would need to make such decision if it wished to do so in future sessions. I believe the third question of the distinguished distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation is actually the same one as the one asked by the distinguished delegate from Palestine. And the answer here is that you would not be suspending the rules after the facts. You are actually suspending the rules before taking action on the agenda. You have been convened in full conformity with Rule 6 of the Rules of Procedure, which provide that an extraordinary session is to be convened with a time limit of 30 days, if possible. It was not possible in the present case, so there was no breach, nor there was full compliance with that rule. On the other hand, you are here in front of you, you have an item that is the adoption of the agenda. And what you have in front of you is a provisional agenda prepared by the Executive Board. That agenda is before you and has reached you not within 30 days of the beginning of the session, as per Rule 17.2. So prior to taking action, what the President is proposing for you to do is to decide whether you accept to suspend the rule and accept to go forward with your session, adopting the agenda on the basis of the provisional agenda that was prepared by the Executive Board, but which reached you not in advance, in 30 days in advance, as provided for in the rules. I should point out that, as you highlighted, Mr. President, this is in full conformity with what was requested by 139 member states upon requesting the convening of the present session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see DPRK. You request the floor. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, for giving me the floor. I have questions to the Mr. Legal Advisors. Actually, the provisional agenda does not explicitly say so, but it is clear that this extraordinary session is about giving a country with areas of the right to vote and to be elected to the Executive Board. In this regard, there is an administrative commission of the General Conference and working group established by it to deliberate on the unpaid contribution. And the General Conference is supposed to make its own decisions on the basis of the findings and recommendations received from the Administrative Commission. But the whole process from the time when the Secretariat received the letter from the United States until now has ignored the above-mentioned procedures. So please tell us the legality of such a process. This is our first request and question to you. And secondly, our delegation would like to know the constitutionality of granting a right to voting and eligibility to election to a country that is not yet a member of this organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. We are now not discussing the substance yet. We are moving towards that. So if we can come back to this issue later, I will thank you very much. Haiti, you request the floor.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, 139 États membres ont écrit à la directrice générale pour lui demander de convoquer cette 5e session extraordinaire. Il était explicite dans cette communication que la session serait convenue avant le mois de juillet 2023, et ceci dans l'intérêt financier et programmatique de l'organisation. Compte tenu des délais, eux aussi explicites, dans la lettre co-signée par ces 139 États membres et dans le souci de nous préserver le temps précieux qui nous est alloué pour cette session extraordinaire, Haïti appelle au vote sur la suspension du dit article 17 par rapport au délai fixé dans l'article 17, paragraphe 2. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, Haiti. Thank you very much. I see the UK. You have the floor, man.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would strongly like to support my colleague from Haiti's call to move for a vote. Thank you. I second it.
Thank you very much. If it is so, I will... DPRK, you requested the floor.
Yeah, I would just explain that our questions were not really substantial, but it was really about the legal issues. So I really want to have the explanations from the legal advisor. Thank you.
Okay, you will listen to the explanation of the legal advisor, and then we are going to proceed as Haiti has...
Mr. President, if I were to answer that question, I would be impeaching with the power of the General Conference, which has not yet adopted the agenda, and I would be dealing matters that are substantive in the agenda. I'm more than willing, of course, to answer the questions, but if I were to answer now, I would be breaching the rules of procedure of the General Conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. With that in mind, we are going to proceed because at least I will try to see if we can adopt it by consensus. If it is so, no, Russia doesn't want, then we go for the vote. And I recall you that the vote will be by show of hands, 2/3 of the members, and the question to be answered by each of us is, do you agree on suspension of the application of Rule 17, paragraph 2, for the 5th extraordinary session of the General Conference? Please, everybody that is stay there, who is in favor of this statement, raise its hands. Thank you. Now I will ask those against this proposition to raise their hands. Thank you. May I ask those that abstain to raise their hands? According to our counting here, we have 2/3 majority. The agenda, we are waiving the time and we're suspending the application of Rule 17, Paragraph 2 for this 5th extraordinary session of the General Conference. Now, let us move to the adoption of the agenda. Yes, Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. А мы не могли бы услышать результаты голосования в цифровом выражении? Спасибо.
Yes, of course. Sorry. Is those are the results? Yeah, the rules of procedure do not require that we present it, but anyway, the numbers are, yes, Russia. Speak.
Нет, мы исходим из того, что правила процедуры требуют 2/3. А как мы можем понять, что более 2/3 участников высказались в поддержку?
You're right. So we have 119 votes in favor. We have 7 votes against, and we have 8 abstentions. It's okay? Thank you. So, let us move now to the adoption of the agenda. In this respect, the Russian Federation has requested, as per Rule 19 of the procedure of the General Conference, to include in the agenda the following supplementary item, which is election of the Vice President and establishment of required commissions and committees. In this regard, if you allow me, I will take the liberty to make one observation, and as per Rule 27 of the Rules of Procedure, the General Conference shall, in an extraordinary session, elect a President and Vice President, and may establish such commissions, committees, and subsidiary organs as may be required by the agenda. It is pursuing the rule, or this rule, that, as you may recall, the legal committee has been convened for the purpose of examining the credentials. In addition, it is my proposal that with the election of the President, we also elect the Vice Presidents in the next item of our agenda, which is item 3. I believe that this proposed course of action already address the concerns that motivated the Russian Federation proposal. And on this understanding, I would like to ask the room whether it would have any objection to proceed in a sense to adopt the agenda on the basis of the provisional agenda prepared by the Executive Board. Palestine?
Thank you, Chair. It's not an objection, it's just a question. You are suggesting to have the election of the vice chairs together with the election of the president. My question in that case, you know very well, for the vice chairs, the electoral groups need to have consultations, and maybe for this purpose, in this regard, we can't elect our vice presidents before having a suspension and having consultation within our electoral groups. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you very much. This is a question that we can discuss on item 3. If it is possible.
Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. May we proceed? Is this proposal acceptable for the Russian Federation? Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Да, спасибо, господин председатель. Мы согласны с этим предложением, мы согласны с предложением приостановить заседание, как предложил уважаемый представитель Палестины.
I understand that the distinguished delegate of Palestine was thinking when we come to item 3 and we will discuss, maybe we have to suspend, but I haven't heard yet any proposal in the sense. Is my understanding correct? Thank you very much, Palestine. So I should understand that we accept, no, Russia? Point of order?
Да, господин председатель, мы могли бы попросить вывести текст решения на экран по этому вопросу, потому что у нас в распространенной повестке дня этот пункт выглядит по-другому. Спасибо.
You want us to show in the screen the agenda? Because it's what we are discussing right now.
Да, в новом ее тогда виде, когда мы с учетом нашей правки, нашего предложения.
I thought, I'm sorry, Russia, I'm a little bit confused. Maybe you can help with the problem, maybe with the translation, I'm not sure. But I had the impression that you were in agreement on my proposal that we move forward because we are going to discuss the issue of the Vice President in the third item, and that the legal committee is already working. So I understood that you were in agreement with that, therefore we could move forward and adopt the agenda as has been presented by the Executive Board. I did not understood. Is that correct? I did not understand. Is that correct? Sorry.
Совершенно верно, господин председатель. Естественно, мы согласны с нашим же предложением, и мы просто просим это отразить тогда в повестке дня. Самой, чтобы это было где-то зафиксировано. Наше предложение по повестке дня, по внесению дополнительного пункта повестки дня. Избрание вице-президентов и создание комитетов.
Okay, sorry, Russia. No, I think that now I got you want us, although I'm telling you that we are doing that on paragraph 3, but you want that this supplementary item be reflected in the agenda. If it is so, we have to take the decision of the body here if they want this item be reflected in the agenda. It is my understanding. It is your understanding also.
Да, совершенно верно, господин председатель, именно то.
Okay, very well. Poland, I see that you request the floor. You have the floor, Poland.
Thank you, Mr. President. In that case, I wish to make a comment regarding the supplementary agenda item submitted by the Russian Federation as per Rule 19 of the Rules of Procedure. And in that context, I would like to request a deletion of a second part of the proposed supplementary item, which means, quote, an establish of required commissions and committees. As you have rightly pointed out, Mr. President, in line with Rule 27 of the Rules of Procedure, the commissions and committees shall be established, quote, as may be required by the agenda of a session, unquote. Given the draft agenda in front of us and current circumstances, we find the establishment of any additional commissions, unnecessary. Furthermore, Mr. President, Excellencies, dear colleagues, we are in full house today, and it is our General Conference sovereign decision to consider any decision directly in a plenary. We have also gathered to deal with a single issue that doesn't require any prior considerations in the committees or commissions. Therefore, we wish this supplementary item to be amended and read as follows. Election of Vice Presidents, full stop, as suggested by you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Poland. Je vois la France. Vous avez la parole, monsieur.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La France partage tout à fait l'approche de la Pologne. La plénière est souveraine, selon nous, et il ne nous paraît pas nécessaire d'alourdir cette session avec la mise en place de comités ou de commissions qui sont inutiles. Merci.
Merci, la France. Palestine and then Russian Federation. Palestine.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس، وآسف لأخذ الكلمة مرة أخرى، لكن هذا طلب فقط إجرائي. بما أن هناك في تعديلات على الأجندة، وبما أن تم اقتراح تعديل على التعديل على الأجندة، يا حبذا لو تكون الأجندة على الشاشة مرئية للجميع. شكرا سيدي الرئيس.
DPR, thank you, Palestine. DPRK, you request the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, giving the floor. Our delegation strongly supports the proposal made by the Russia and the adding the additional item on the agenda for, namely, election of vice chair and establishing of required commissions and committee. Indeed, issues in the agenda item before us today and tomorrow require establishment of such relevant commissions and committees because it is dealing with areas of one state, one country wishing to come back to our organization, and we have established a channel, established a procedure to deal with this issue. Namely, we have an administrative commission and we have a working group on, namely, precisely this issue. So therefore, we strongly support the proposal made by Russia. Thank you.
Before we move to the, I think that we are far from seeing a consensus here, and I will follow the lead, and we are going to vote on this issue. In this sense, we are going to vote first on the amendment proposed by Poland to the inclusion, which is just an inclusion of the sentence. Can you repeat it for us, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Election of vice presidents. Full stop. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, we start Russia.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы хотели бы получить заключение юридического советника по поводу очередности голосования поправок. Мы так понимаем, что предложение уважаемого представителя Польши является не поправкой к нашему предложению, а отдельно выдвинутой поправкой. И в таком случае наше предложение должно голосоваться первым. И попутно, если позволите, замечу, что у нас уже создан юридический комитет, как мы выяснили, и поэтому отрицать создание комитетов просто нелепо.
Palestine, point of order.
Yes, very simple, very technical one, Mr. Chair. We are talking about the agenda, and we are about to adopt the agenda, and there are amendments on the agenda and amendments on the amendments, and we see nothing on the screen. Please, can we have it on the screen, the provisional agenda with the amendments and the amendments on the amendments, Mr. Chair? Thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, I understand. You have the document in front of you, which...
Yes, that's coming as a supplement.
Okay, I think that they are preparing the agenda. We are going to vote the Russian proposal, that we vote first your proposal of inclusion of an item. So, and for this election, of course, we need a two-thirds majority, as you know. So the question will be: are you in favor to amend the agenda proposed by the executive board in the sense of including the proposal made by the Russian Federation, which is, can you read it for us, please? Okay, let's get it. Let me see if I have it here. We will, as I told you, we will need two-thirds majority, and we will do it raising our hands. I see. While the text they are looking for the text. Oman, have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, this is a necessity to see the text on the screen, please. Before we vote, we need to know what we are voting for. And this is a very simple request from Member State. Thank you.
1 second, we are going to put it on the screen.
Mr. President, may I request the typist to not only have the provisional agenda, but also the supplementary items that the Russian Federation has proposed on the screen, please, on a separate document. Please, can we have that? What we have in front of the screen now is the provisional agenda of the General Conference that was circulated under 5XC. And I'm asking also for the supplementary items that were presented by Russia to be put up on the screen. Mr. President, we have this on the screen now. I can see it in the French version in the front of the screen that I have. May we have it in the English version also?
I will request the Secretariat to read it aloud, the text that has been proposed by the Russian Federation. In English, please.
It is the English which has the smaller font, President, but I'm focusing. Election of the vice presidents and establishment of the required commissions and committees was the proposal from the Russian Federation.
Dear colleagues, we are going to proceed now to the vote on this issue. I recall you that these are two-thirds. Oh, yes, Slovakia. Sorry, you are a little bit far.
I'm very sorry, Mr. President, to interrupt you. I'm happy that we have now the draft on the screen, because this is the way how we are used to proceed. I understand there is this amendment by the Russian Federation, but we heard also from the floor the amendment on this amendment, which was clearly articulated as being amendment of the proposed amendment. So I would like to see also the Polish amendment on the screen. Thank you very much.
Can we have in the screen the Polish amendment?
Mr. President, with your permission, the Polish amendment that, as I recall, was only for the election of vice presidents.
It's correct.
May have it in both English and French.
We are going to proceed first to vote on the Russian proposal for inclusion of an item, and then we are going to vote on the Polish proposal. Is that okay? So the first question is, do you agree to the inclusion of a supplementary item as proposed by the Russian Federation in the agenda adopted by the Executive Board? Now I'm asking that those Russia? No? No Russia. Okay. Thank you. Those that are in favor of this proposal, please raise their hand. Thank you very much. May I ask those that are against to raise their hands?
Belarus, you have your plaque still.
We requested the speech, yeah.
The the vote is on. There can be no interventions.
Should I count it as a vote?
No, so Mr. President, we requested a speech during 10 minutes, and now we are waiting.
Our hands are paining, Mr. President. The voting is started, please.
Okay, thank you very much. May I ask now those that abstain to this in this vote to raise their hands? Okay, the results of these elections are 83 votes against, 10 votes in favor, 22 abstentions. The item has not been included in the agenda. Now we move to the vote of the Polish amendment, which is the inclusion of election of the Vice President. So the question is, do you accept the inclusion of the supplementary item as proposed by Poland to the draft agenda? Again, this is a two-thirds also? Two-thirds. It's a two-thirds vote. So those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. May I ask those against to raise their hands? Thank you very much. May I ask those that abstain to raise their hands? Thank you very much. The result of this election is, of this vote, sorry, is 97 in favor, 1 against, and 20 abstention. It has been adopted, and the agenda has been adopted. This item has been adopted. Yes, Russian Federation. Yes, Russian Federation.
Excellency, can you repeat the numbers?
Somebody was asking.
Да, извините, господин председатель. Что сказать? После того, как проголосовались все поправки, мы...
The translation was not working. Can you repeat for me, please?
Насколько мы понимаем, мы должны... Насколько мы понимаем, мы должны поставить весь проект резолюции, весь проект решения на голосование.
Yes, you're right. We are going to do that, of course. I just say that this item has been adopted, not the whole text. We are going to vote the text right now. Again, it's a... Yeah. Can we try to adopt it by consensus? Yes, no?
Это зависит от мнения юридического советника. Если нам нужны 2/3 для принятия, то, видимо, надо голосовать. Если нет, то консенсус понятен.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I am surprised by the question since, as you know, the constant practice of the General Conference has been that even for decisions that are to be taken according to the rules by a certain majority, whatever it is, either a simple majority or a 2/3 majority, the General Conference often decides to proceed to the adoption of a decision without a vote. That is what consensus is. Mr. President, my understanding is that your proposal is for the agenda as amended to be adopted by the General Conference by consensus. If, of course, consensus is not reached, then as per Rule 20, Paragraph 1, the agenda should be adopted by a 2/3 majority through a vote. Thank you very much.
It's okay, Russia? Okay, let's vote on it. But can we try the consensus yet or not? Can we adopt it by consensus? I see now. Adopted it is. Thank you, Russia. Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we will now examine item 3 of our agenda, which is the election of the President of the General Conference, with the election of this extraordinary conference, and after that, the election of the Vice Presidents. Dominican Republic, you request the floor.
Muchísimas gracias, señor presidente. República Dominicana, por entender que usted reúne el expertise y la experiencia necesaria en la presidencia de la Conferencia General, lo propone a usted para que presida esta 5ª Asamblea General Extraordinaria. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias, República Dominicana, por esta propuesta. I request India. Can you have the floor?
Excellency, we would like to second the excellent choice by the Dominican Republic in your favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, India. Everybody agrees with this proposal made by Dominican Republic and the Secretary of China? Thank you very much. I'm very happy and very honored that you indicate me, but ask me tomorrow how things are going. Now, let's turn to the election of the Vice President of this 5th extraordinary session of the General Conference. I would like to propose, as for all 4 previous extraordinary sessions of the General Conference, that the 24 Vice Presidents of the previous ordinary session, that is the 41st session, be elected as Vice President of this extraordinary session. Are there any option to this? Opposition to this? No? Do I assume that we accept it? Thank you. Dear colleagues, we have made our way through the procedural process for this conference. Now we are reaching the substantive area of this conference, which is item 4. Which is sorry. Okay, we have passed 6 o'clock. Let's see how we are. Wait 1 second. I will propose to you that we start tomorrow morning with this issue, because our interpreters that have been working very hard are asking us to leave right now. If there is no difficulties with this proposal, we will see you tomorrow here sharp at 10, and I thank you very much for your cooperation. Thank you.